Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 2025 film Shelby Oaks, and this is directed by Chris Stuckman and stars Camille Sullivan and Sarah Dern. Many years after her sister's disappearance, Mia has always maintained hope that Riley is still alive. This then leads her down a dark and sinister path to uncover the mystery. Well guys, this was one of my most anticipated films of 2024 because I thought it was going to come out last year, and then it made my top 10 most anticipated films of 2025 list because of course it didn't come to fruition until late October this year. And I am just going to say where I stand on my stance with Chris Stuckman. I think he's a wonderful movie reviewer. I've watched him for many years now. Best part of 10 years, you know, he's one of the first people to ever do this on YouTube, may have been the first, and he's just been a huge inspiration to me. And a while ago he came out and said that he wants to make movies, and you can only admire the path that he has taken to get this movie made. It seems like it's been a very tough struggle, but he has stopped at nothing, and he has always been pushed on to find his dream become a reality. So, you know, whether you like the guy or not, that is so admirable. But yeah, I'm a fan, and I was really excited to see what he could do with a movie of his own after hearing a lot of his critiques over the years. So it's kind of a little bit of a strange review for me, this one, but one that, you know, I'm quite excited to do. And when it said written and directed by Chris Stuckman at the start of the movie, and that just kind of felt weird. I know I don't personally know the guy or anything, but when you've been watching YouTubers for so long, you kind of get a little bit of a personal liking to them now, don't you? So yeah, it was great to see his name in the headlights there. So let's get into it now. My thoughts on Shelby Oaks, and I'm going to try and be as least biased as possible here. First off, I gotta say, Chris's directing here was an interesting choice that actually pays off. There is a mix of your, casual directing here, mixed with mockumentary and found footage, and it all blends together very well to tell this story. They pop in at the right times, you know, you can really tell by the aspect ratio change and everything, Chris helping the viewer along there. But for me, I thought this was a really good blend, and you either get one or two of the others. Can't quite recall a film where I've seen all three come together at once there. So yeah, something fresh and original when it comes to that, I suppose. I gotta say, there's some really nice camera angles and everything that Chris uses here, with some overhead shots, some inspiration from Sam Raimi's Evil Dead there, I think. Also, the wide angle choices that he uses, but he never actually overdoes it to ever feel pretentious. You know, he just tries to do these moments at the right time, just to mix it up a little bit there, but never distracting the viewer too much. And you can tell every shot has just got his heart on the screen. He's very carefully crafted. You can tell that he's really wanted to pinpoint where everything should be, and it worked. I think this is a visually really well done film. I also really like how Chris applies tension to some of the creepier scenes in this movie, especially in the second half of the film where we go to this house at one point. And I won't try and give anything away here, but I've heard Chris talk about this on his channel where there's kind of a ticking time bomb in the room, and he's applied it to this scene on a much lower scale, put it that way. I mean, our main character is going into this house to try and discover where his sister has gone, but there's something making a noise upstairs, and that's all I'm going to tell you guys. But you know, as a viewer, that something isn't quite right, and Chris just gives you them little droplets to say, like, yeah, put that in your back of your mind because that may come to fruition very, very soon. And he has said that he has admired lots of directors who've done this in much bigger ways, but I like how he sort of put that in there as an inspiration. A lot of people have criticized Chris a little bit here with this movie, saying he wears too much inspiration on his sleeve, but I think that's a wonderful thing to put in your movies. It's your journey through film history and all the stuff that you like, trying to accumulate it and put your own little spin on it. Tarantino does it all the time. Also, with his 70s inspired stuff with his movies. So yeah, I thought this was a positive for the film. I gotta say, this is a very tight-knit, coolly written ghost story as well. There are pieces thrown at you here and there that all good writing should do, that accumulate together towards the end. One thing I really liked about this film, what Chris did, is just show you images here and there of certain books or computer screens, little video clips here and there. And it didn't need someone to explain the exposition to you. You know, you can just pick it up on what might be going on from a few little images here and there. And that kind of cut some corners that some people may have been criticizing this movie for, if someone is over explaining things going on. And I think that was a really good way of getting around that, to keep the story flowing nicely. And there was no real, negatives here with the plot or anything. My wife, after this film, we were discussing it, and she was like, well, why did this person do this? And why did this person do this? And I thought about it, and I instantly had an answer, and I was like, no, this is why, this is why. And she was like, oh yeah, that all makes sense now. So whilst it may require a bit of thinking as to why certain characters do things in certain scenarios, I didn't see any plot hole or anything like that. I think it all came together very nicely at the end. And I just gotta say, the ending to this film was the best part of the entire movie for me. When something was happening on screen, I was like, oh man, roll the credits now. You've done your job. Roll credits, and Chris rolled the credits. So, yeah, perfect ending in my opinion. Really liked how the story, came to its climax there. I gotta say, there is a great performance in here from Camille Sullivan, the star of this film, who is searching for a missing sister. And you really do believe her early on that she may be right and his sister may actually be alive. But it's the way she acts in this movie, the performance she puts in. It feels like her real life sister has actually gone missing. The trauma that she's going through, the itch at the back of her head that says, no, people are telling me that this girl has gone missing, but I know she's alive. And you just see the determination in her, but she is got to be full of fear sometimes, full of bravery, and you can see it in all the mannerisms. I thought she put in an absolutely exceptional performance. One of my favourites of the year, to be honest. But just speaking of that, I think this is a really cool way of Chris telling a story that was close to him. He has been very open about being in the Jehovah's Witness and him trying to get out of it, and his sister was actually shunned, and he didn't see her for 17 years, and he's finally met up with her now, and everything's good. I think that's a wonderful way of putting that on screen into this sort of horror ghost story, really. So yeah, it's good that we're having some real life inspirations put into a fictional story there. And the last of these positives I'm just going to say is that Chris has a lot of potential. I am going to get into some negatives in a minute, but I am very excited to see what he's going to do in future, maybe with a much bigger budget, because this film was kickstarted and Neon sort of gave him a little bit extra to tidy it up a little bit there because they believed in him. But I'm just wondering, if he's given even just 5 or 10 million even, what he could bring out of that, because I know he has a lot of great ideas and everything. And, we can see where that goes. And I just hope the future is very bright for him. Now, some of the negatives here, I got to say, some of the jump scares do feel a little bit forced with added sound effect that didn't quite work for me. Thankfully, Chris doesn't overload the movie with them. There's just one or two here and there that you can kind of see coming a mile away. And at 1 or 2 points, he puts this sound effect in where I was like, I don't know if we needed that, Chris. But yeah, I mean, it's a small nitpick. I didn't hate that or anything, but it is something that I noticed. And I got to say, the movie does feel a little bit unoriginal in its story. Not the director and everything, that all felt very, very fresh and new. And, it's great to have new faces in horror all the time. But for the story, even though I didn't fully predict where it was going, there are some heavy nods to the audience of what might be going on here. And I can see a lot of people picking this up and sort of guessing exactly where this film is going. I think it would have worked better if Chris done a little bit more subtle nods to the audience instead of some heavy ones. But overall, it's still a cool little story, I think. And I gotta say, there is a lot of setup in this film, which may feel like the first act of the film or the first half is going a little bit too slow. At times I was thinking, okay, we need to move it along a little bit there because we're getting too much setup, and yeah, that could have been toned down a little bit. But once you get past that, and it really does kick in, the movie doesn't stop. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now, guys. I'm going to give Shelby Oaks a solid 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed this film, would not be against watching it again. And yeah, again, excited to see what Chris can do in future. Okay, guys, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for Shelby Oaks is that there is a prison institution centre in this movie that is the same prison that was filmed in the Shawshank Redemption. Okay guys, hope you all enjoyed this review. Please give your thoughts down below on Shelby Oaks, and if you like horror, please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. It really helped me out. Thanks so much guys, you all take care. I'll see you all in the next video.